What's going on, gamers? I'm Merkaba18. Today we're going to be talking about the end game Necromancer. We are finally towards the middle of end game, and we're ready to talk about what the end game build is. So I have been working on this, trying to make some changes and some tweaks here and there, but I think I'm finally comfortable to make this video. So let me know what you think in the comments below. We're going to start with some basic stat choices and stat priorities. And we're going to talk about the overarching aspects of this game. We're going to jump into the ability board, Book of the Dead, and then into the Paragon board as well. So the biggest stat choices you're going to make with this class and with this build are going to be intelligence, which is going to increase your skill damage by a percentage, and resistances, which isn't as important, especially towards the end game. Most of the resistances get ignored, but willpower is your equal. I would say these two are 1A and 1B in terms of core stats. You're going to want to increase your regen on resources, and you're going to want to increase your healing received, and then your overpower damage. If you had to prioritize one over the other, I would say prioritize willpower over intelligence, simply because of the overpower damage. This entire build centers around a lot of overpower damage and triggering guaranteed overpowered skills. And therefore, when you come down here, you want a high overpowered chance. Mine's not as high as I want it to be right now, but you want to prioritize overpowered chance and specifically overpowered damage, so that when you do trigger an overpower, it's going to do much, much, much more damage. And the other thing to keep in mind with this build is you really want to prioritize a lot of healing, crit while healing, any kind of stat or any kind of role or ability that prioritizes fortify damage, healing received, damage over time from healing, anything where you're doing more damage as a result of being fortified or healing. Those are the ones that you're looking for with this build, in addition to the overpowers and those kinds of things. So Book of the Dead, let's go ahead and start with this. I don't use a minion build with this because I don't find them to be all that useful. In a solo environment and where you're trying to survive some of the early endgame, I would recommend maybe using some skirmishers. But here we're going to sacrifice our skirmishers for more crit damage. We're going to go down to mages, and we're going to go with the bone mages, which will also increase our... This is a huge one for us. Overpower damage is increased by 40% because we don't have mages. And then for our blood, we're going to go max life. Increased by 10%, which is huge. So that is the Book of the Dead. I would recommend using minions more as a way to keep things off of you in a solo environment, and in a group especially, it's not going to do you as much good. But if you like minions, the minions that I would use are, freeze mages, skirmishers, and then blood golem of some kind. All right, so let's walk through the skill tree real quick. Your base core skill... basic skill is going to be hemorrhage. You're going to want to put 5 there. We'll go enhanced hemorrhage and then initiates hemorrhage. Those are going to do a couple of things. One, you're going to pick up blood orbs, and that's going to allow you to do damage to 2 additional enemies per essence hit. And then this one is going to hemorrhage grant you 1.6% base life as fortify. Each time it hits an enemy, and has a 1% chance to fortify you for 100% of your base life. So that's, again, most of this build is going to be centered around being healthy, healing yourself, and then doing extra damage as a result of that. You're going to get tons of overhealing, tons of barriers, those kinds of things. Blood Lance is your main nuke. So this is going to be your energy or essence generator. This is going to be your essence spender. So this is going to basically do a lot of single target damage. This is going to spawn a lot of blood orbs. And then these are going to do tons and tons of damage. So you throw a blood lance that lingers in an enemy for 3 seconds, dealing damage to them over and all other lanced enemies. So this is essentially going to stick within them and do a ton of damage. With enhanced, the blood lance will pierce through, dealing 15% reduced damage to each enemy thereafter. And then supernatural, you're going to cast 6 blood lances, and it's going to guarantee overpower and spawn a blood orb onto the enemy hit. So this is where I'm saying, after 6 blood lances, which doesn't really take all that long, you're going to guarantee overpower. So once you're doing a ton of damage to them already, that final 7th hit is going to be insanely hard hitting. assuming your overpower damage is where it wants to be. Blight is my sort of AoE control. It's going to do a little bit of damage and deal slow and immobilization effects. Up here, I also went with Unliving Energy for more energy, or for more essence, and then we went with Perfectly Imbalanced, which we also get some item contributions from, which will increase damage and energy costs, or essence costs. Down here, we did get some Bone Spear. I don't recommend it with this particular build, but if you can't afford any of these other ones yet, or if you can't afford Blight yet, this is a good option for like a single target nuke. Blood Mist is my sort of immunity. It's a way of generating a little bit of health on an emergency. So you're going to become completely immune for 3 seconds. Your movement speed's going to go down, and you deal a little bit of damage and heal for part of your life over time. We're going to go with Enhance, which casting a skill that overpowers reduces the cooldown by 2 seconds. So more that you overpower, the more that you're going to be able to use it. It also then fortifies you, which is part of the, fortified and overhealed is part of this build at its core. I skipped the curses almost entirely for this build. There are a lot of them out there that use it. I don't particularly like them. Here we're going to go, if you were to use one, dealing the Decrepify is a good option, at least one rank of it. So they do at least 10 or 20% less damage and they're slowed. That's a good option if you want to instead of Blight, but I like the damage from Blight, and I like that it kind of immobilizes them as well. Here, we're going to fill out some of these huge blood abilities. While below 50% health, you receive more healing from all sources. You're going to get additional healthy benefits, or additional damage while healthy, so 18% more damage there. And then hitting enemies with a blood skill has a chance to fortify you for 8% of your boost life. Then we're going to go blood skills, deal 15% increased overpower damage. It's doubled when you're healthy. So it's going to be 30% more damage from overpowered abilities while they are healthy, which is huge for this build. This is another sort of like AoE control, but it also is going to trigger some critical strikes, and it's also going to trigger some major crowd control, sort of group everything up so that everything's getting hit with Blood Lance and some of your other abilities. Veins, it sort of grasps them and pulls them in. We're going to go Enhanced so that they are slowed. And then Blood Orbs will spawn about a third of the time from those enemies. For my ult, the only real option I think in this case is Bone Storm. The other two are okay for circumstantial things, like Blood Wave's decent for PvP. Army of the Dead is decent if you're doing a minion build. But for the most part, Bone Storm, Prime Bone Storm, and then Supreme are the way to go. And then for this one, this is a really critical one. You increase your max life by 10%. So passively, you're just going to have 20% more health from Sacrificed Golem and from Rathma's Vigor. And after being healthy for 12 total seconds, which it shouldn't be hard to do with this build, your next blood skill will guarantee to overpower. So you're going to get a lot of extra triggers there. You're going to get a lot of extra overpowered guaranteed skills as well. So in terms of the Paragon board, you're going to want to prioritize max life choices and damage while healthy, intelligence, and willpower as well. The first rare node I went with was Wisdom. Or first node glyph I went with was Wisdom. Every 5 intelligence grants 1.5 increased damage. The second node that I'm going to be using is Dominate, which is, I think, the most important. Dominate is going to increase your overpowered damage. Let me see if I can find it down here for you. Dominate. Every 5 willpower, you grant 5.9% increased overpower damage. And when you overpower an enemy with the additional bonus, you're going to get 12% increased damage for 5 seconds. Some other good options for you are Blood Drinker and Imbiber. Those are lesser options in my opinion. And then the secondary sort of magic glyph that I would use is for every 5 willpower, you gain 1.9 increased damage while fortified, which is one of the core elements of this build. So in terms of gear choices, like I said, you're going to want to prioritize abilities that heal you, that do additional damage while fortified, etc. I'm currently using the standstill damage increase because this is going to be sort of a melee necromancer. You're going to have everything kind of close and tight within your range, and you're not going to be moving around a whole lot with this because your whole point of it is that they are close to you. And then here, this is a really important one. You gain 10% increased crit chance for 6 seconds when you cast Corpse Central. So the moment that I group them all up, they're all ready to go. 6% increased Corpse Strike or crit chance there. Blood Orbs reduce your ultimate cooldown by 1 second. Super important because you pick up a ton of Blood Orbs, which are basically cheat codes, free potions that drop all over the place. Bone Storm, this is a really important ult. This is one that I would use. Bone Storm does damage over time effects as Shadow. This is another really important one. When Blood Lance hits an enemy that is already lanced, it has a 27% chance to fire another Blood Lance at a different enemy nearby. So you're Blood Lancing everything, and then you start to get more and more overpowered procs. Each time Bone Storm damages an enemy, gain a barrier equal to 2% of your base life. Huge roll there. That's another one of them that I would use as a priority. Blood Mist triggers Corpse Explosion. So like every time you go into that immunity, any corpses that are on the ground, in addition to healing and doing a little bit of damage, they're going to explode for more damage and do an insane amount of AoE. Each percent of your maximum life you heal beyond 100% grants you 0.5 bonus overpower damage on your next attack. That's a really high priority there. Pretty low roll on this particular one, but you want to kind of prioritize that aspect. Basic skills grant 20% damage reduction is a really, really good option for pants. Now, keep in mind, I haven't gotten any of the uniques or anything like that for this one. I will pin a comment below this video when I get into some of the uniques and some of the very specific like unique items that you're going to want. Blight's Defiled Area will then pull enemies in so that everything's a little bit tighter. So you have two abilities that are going to kind of like pull everything within, and then you're going to have them really close to you and do a ton of damage. I appreciate you watching this video. I hope you enjoy this guide. We have the next one that I'll be doing is for the Sorcerer. So watch for that in the near future, and we will have that done. Thank you again for watching. I'll be covering Season 1 and all of the Diablo content over on Twitch, here on YouTube, and on TikTok. Make sure to sub to the channel if you haven't already. It's absolutely free, and I hope to see you again soon.